want to thank everybody for joining us. My name is Jacob Reed. I'm here with Dan Hughes, gold medal winning coach on the Olympic national team for women's basketball. And Coach Hughes here is an alumni of Muskingum, 1977, I believe. And we're thrilled to have you here. Going to ask you some questions here about your experience at the Olympics. So just to start things off, I want to thank you for being here and just see how you're doing and how's it feel to be home after spending over 2 weeks in Tokyo?
Well, it feels good. The whole process was about a month, an investment between being in Vegas to begin our training and then going to Tokyo for a week of practice and then 2 weeks basically of the Olympics. So it's been a process and it feels really good to be back home. Ohio is now my home, so that's great. To say I'm resting, I slept well the first night and last night. My body clock is just all over the place.
Right.
So I'm still looking for that good night's rest that I haven't quite been able to find, but I know it's coming.
Yeah, so you kind of touched on it. Obviously in Tokyo, I mean, the time change is a huge thing. And how long did it take for you specifically or the team in general to really adjust to the time to where you were on Tokyo's schedule?
I would say about 3 to 4 days, to be honest with you. At least that personally with me, it did. The athletes, I noticed a little bit of that in them too. Luckily, we had about a week before we went to our first game. And so we got training there. But I really noticed it about 72 hours out, personally, at that point. You go through getting up at some really weird hours and trying to force yourself to sleep. But the athletes are so trained because a lot of them have experience playing overseas. And they have played in different areas of the world, and they have their own little system, and I think they had developed ways to kind of deal. And the best advice I ever got was to, when you get to a new time zone, try to get into the rhythm of that time zone. And that's exactly what I tried to do.
Yeah. So I'm going to back it up here. We're in June 20th, 2019 is the day that they announced that you would be on the coaching staff for the Olympic Games in what was supposed to be 2020, now 2021. So when you found out that you were going to be on the coaching staff, what kind of emotions and what kind of reaction did you have to being named?
Well, it was a vast amount of emotions. Because to be honest with you, I was in San Antonio and retired out of San Antonio in 2016, I believe it was. And so then all of a sudden, I accept the Seattle job to come back and coach again in the WNBA. And then on the heels of that was the opportunity to be a part of the staff. And so it was overwhelming in a lot of ways, because these are things I served on the selection committee, but being a coach at heart, this was what I always wanted. I always wanted to serve on the coaching staff. And so for that to be an opportunity for me was just, it was a bucket list thing.
Right.
And was just amazing, to be honest with you.
So now, I mean, 2 years later, you've been a part of a gold medal winning team now. And just how thankful are you for this entire experience and just to be a part of the Olympics?
Well, to be honest with you, this was a 5-year process. I was named to coach at the World Cup.
Okay.
So I initially in 2018 coached in the World Cup. So I had that experience, and that's a huge event. I think we in America put at the Olympics maybe even a higher kind of importance, but in reality, worldwide, they're both seen as incredible things. So the reality of being a part of the World Cup taught me a lot about the training that went into this. But what really made this special in two ways was who I went through it with. Dawn Staley was my first point guard.
Mm-hmm.
Charlotte, when I became a WNBA head coach for the first time, she was my point guard.
Mm-hmm.
Jen Rosati played for me at Cleveland during 2 of those years, actually 3 of those years that she played there. And Cheryl Reeve was my assistant at
Mm-hmm.
that point. So I'm sharing this experience with them. And we had 3 of my players from Seattle that were both on the World Cup, now on the Olympic thing. So just feel very blessed to be in the company of such outstanding people.
Right. And it's funny. I actually had questions about the coaching staff and then the 3 players from Seattle on my list here. I wanted to talk to you, so we can jump ahead to that. You mentioned Dawn Staley, Jen Rosati, and Cheryl Reeve. Obviously you've built relationships with them over your years of coaching and being in basketball. So what did it really mean to share this Olympic experience with them specifically?
Well, it was a culminating experience. One of the things that has driven my journey as a basketball coach, I think, has been um, kind of the coaching tree that has been a part of my story. About half of the WNBA are my former assistants. I have so many, I can't even count former players that are in the collegiate ranks or coaching in a lot of situations. A lot of players I have coached for whatever reason have gone on into coaching. And to have that as part of your story, so to speak, is just about as important as any championship or any gold medal that we won, because I think that's an important part of this process, especially when you understand the world and you understand, I think, the role of women in coaching growing and seeing that come to realization is something that I wanted to see happen in my lifetime, and to see it at this particular point is very powerful to me. I thank God for those kinds of people that are part of my story, and knowing and hopefully seeing the world go to the point that I think you see more of that. You see more WNBA players become coaches and take this league into the future, and you see it in the Olympics and the same thing. That
Right.
that it continues to grow.
Yeah. So looking at the players specifically, I believe Brianna Stewart, Sue Bird, and Jewel Lloyd were the 3 players that you had coached in Seattle and that were on the roster for the Olympic team. And obviously you've got relationships with them through coaching and everything. So what was it like being able to coach them again here in the Olympics and to share this experience with them as well?
Well, pretty special. Just a blessing, I think, is the best thing. I mean, those group of 3 players that you're talking about have brought a lot of success to, at all of us that are in coaching know the real reality is the players you coach. You can kind of, sometimes people give you credit as a coach when in reality it's the players that kind of make you look good as a coach. That's we do. To have the ability to have them as part of this experience, that was very, very special. And you had different moments. Jewel Lloyd, coaches don't get gold medals. The players get them, and we may end up with a replica, but the actual gold medal just goes to players. That's true in every sport. But anyway, Jewel Lloyd took her gold medal and put it up around me, and we got a picture, together. And that moment will stay with me forever. Yeah. Ever. And Brianna Stewart, there was a moment, we were going through this process together, and she came and had a conversation with me that it's just priceless. It's the kind of conversation you have with somebody that you know very well.
Mm-hmm.
And, as we were trying to get this team to its highest potential, and you so enjoyed that. And then just last night, I couldn't sleep. One of the nights I can't sleep. I'm still working on sleeping, but I got up and I rewatched the gold medal game.
Yeah.
And when I saw the hug that Sue Bird gave me,
mm-hmm.
I hugged a lot of players and we were all happy. But when I saw that, because a couple of people had mentioned, and I thought that's a really cool moment. I'm at the end of my career as far as a lot of those type of things. And Sue, I don't know how long Sue will play, but she's certainly in that area too. It just was very special. So in different ways, it's a very culminating and inspiring to have shared the past that I had with them, but then to share the present of Jewel getting her first medal and Stewie her second and Sue her fifth.
Yeah.
Amazing.
It's unbelievable. It is. And
yeah.
I mean, her and I believe Diana Taurasi are the two that have 5 gold medals, and that's the most for any basketball player ever. So with them specifically, obviously all the experience they have, how much did they really help grow the team, and not only their play on the court, but just their leadership and just being around players that have been and done it so many times? How much did that really help the team?
Oh, just amazing. The Serbia game, the first half, Sue Bird's presence not everybody understands the passer and the point guard that Sue is, but Sue was a shot maker in that first half that was just extraordinary. And watching her presence, you could see how it gave confidence, not only to her teammates, but to people like me going through it the first time. Now, she had a presence that you could just seem to make all of us better, at that point. And Diana Taurasi, if people will watch that last game, I was watching it last night, and she got hit Diana's been coming off of an injury. She got hit kind of hard. And you could see her grimace, but you could see there was no way she was going to be denied from staying on the floor and doing that. And I know Coach Staley did a good job of, if you watch that game real close, she had either she had both in the game or one or the other, pretty much till it was decided.
Yeah.
She went right to that leadership.
Yeah. So looking at the Olympics specifically, obviously one of the most iconic moments is the opening ceremonies, when you've got teams and countries from all over the world coming together to celebrate sports. And so being there in Tokyo for the Olympics, when you walk out of the tunnel with everybody from the United States, what is just the environment like, and what are your emotions like in an environment like that?
Well, there was a lot of factors there. First of all, it was a different kind of Olympics, and you need to speak to that, because in reality, I wasn't there. None of the coaches. They only allowed athletes, because of the COVID restrictions, only allowed athletes to go to that. So all of us coaches and all of us people that normally would have been a part of that,
right?
We watched it.
Okay, yeah.
But there were a couple things in watching. We were all very interested, but in watching it, Sue Bird led all the athletes in the United States out, which is a huge, huge honor.
Yeah.
So that was very special coming out of it. And then understanding the reality of how this Olympics is a little different. It was totally, not your normal Olympics. We didn't have the freedom to be a part of the city that you often have when you're at Olympics, and there was, we had to be tested every day. We as a group had to make sure that we were doing everything we could to keep ourselves healthy.
Right.
In so many ways. And that's part of this story too. The sacrifice that the athletes made. We really were either in our room at the dining area or on a bus to a game or to a practice, and that was it.
Right.
All the exercise I had for 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks, was walking in my room. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it was a different kind of commitment that
Mm-hmm.
you had to make. I think it brought us together in certain ways, but it was very unique and totally unlike what I think most people experience at the Olympics.
Right. And hearing you describe just the way that the Olympic Committee decided to handle it's almost like a bubble format, which the WNBA was in a couple years ago.
Yeah.
And if I remember, you weren't there with Seattle whenever that went on, but obviously all the WNBA players were there for that.
Yeah.
And obviously, being in an enclosed bubble environment like that, it can work on you mentally and everything. But
Yeah.
with WNBA players already having that past experience, do you think that helped them in a way during these Olympics since they had already gone through something pretty similar to that?
No question.
Mm-hmm.
No question. You know, the only we were all vaccinated,
Right.
which is, allowed me to be a part of this.
Mm-hmm.
That put me in a different kind of situation. Because of some of the health issues that people feared,
Mm-hmm.
me, but now the vaccinated, we were all vaccinated. We were in those situations, but with kind of the advent of the Delta virus and different things and what was kind of going on in Tokyo,
Right.
you very much wanted to protect the interests that you had with your team and with your country and make sure that you were doing everything you could. But we were tested every day. You know, I'd wake up in the morning. The first thing I'd do is go get tested,
Mm-hmm.
and go about, exercising in my room. This small, and this wasn't an elaborate room.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of walking in a little circle and doing my things and drinking
Mm-hmm.
my coffee and answering my emails, and you get into a certain rhythm. But it was a commitment, and these athletes very much paid attention. What I was proud of them. I thought they really paid attention to doing all they could to stay in this lane of staying healthy for the Olympics.
Right. So we talked a little bit earlier about the time change and the problems that can impose being on the other side of the world. But are there any other problems that this team in particular faced, or just Olympic athletes in general, different types of adversities that the national media or people might not really recognize that just come along with being a part of the Olympics?
Well, I think you heard about it a little bit, but the mentality, the mental health things. It's very. It was a story, I think, here with different athletes kind of dealing with the reality of mental health at that point. But that became, I think, something that the athletes had to find their own sense of balance with in a situation that there was no balance.
Right.
Normally, an athlete is at these situations, and they will have their family or a significant friend with them when they go through the medal week. Mm-hmm. That's very typical, and that did not happen. You weren't allowed to bring fans to Japan,
Mm-hmm.
and so you didn't have that family support. You didn't have that support. You had to generate that on your own and with your teammates and with your coaches or like that. And that's a challenge. I have to be honest, because everybody, it's a different kind of pressure that and I was the assistant coach. I can't imagine what Don felt.
Mm-hmm.
I saw it in Don, and I saw it in Greg Popovich, who's a friend. And we were together a lot. We were in the same hotel, and we ate a lot and flew over together. But I could see in them, and I felt it. You want so much because you're representing your country and you're representing all of us. You want very much to do well, but that is an art. You can want it too much. You have to stay on a kind of a path and whatever. And I'll be real honest with you. When I first got to Japan, I texted the president, Sue Hessler,
Mm-hmm.
to her and said, listen, I said, I think some of the things I learned at Muskingum are going to be very, very valuable to me in this experience I'm about to go through. And I was genuine, in that, because you're drawing on some presence, in those situations. And that was one of the first texts I sent from Japan, telling her that I'm so glad that I had some of the experience I had going through Muskingum, because I think it's going to be useful in this up and coming 2.5 weeks. And it was, to be honest with
you. Yeah. So you touched on a little bit your relationship with Coach Greg Popovich, and you've known him obviously whenever you were the coach of the Silver Stars in San Antonio. You're close, and you've had a relationship with him ever since. How much? Just what were your emotions and feelings about obviously him winning a gold medal with his team, and just being able to share experiences like that with him, with somebody that you've known for so long?
It was, I can't even begin to express how unique this situation was to share. On one side, I'm sharing, with people that were part of my past in women's basketball.
Mm-hmm.
Then on the other side, I'm sharing experience. We were very interactive with the men's coaches. We flew over together and we were in the same area. We ate in the same place, had wonderful exchange of things. And they were going through a similar situation like we were. When we started this trek, we lost in an all-star game, and then we lost to Australia in just a preseason kind of friendly game.
Right.
So we start out 0-2, which is, this is a basketball team that very rarely loses, period.
Mm-hmm.
The men did the same thing, if you watch their thing. So the fact that we were able to kind of understand each other's world a little bit as we put these teams together.
Mm-hmm.
And then to watch Pop, and I went to the games, they allowed us at the end, because we were on a similar sport, they allowed us to go to the games. So I was actually one of the people that were there. And they were at ours. It was amazing to see Pop at our games, and Steve Kerr, and I got to know Jay Wright really well at Villanova. And
Mm-hmm.
Chip England was part of the staff, and Chip and I are really good friends. He's the shooting coach at there. And then you had Ime Udoka, who was there, and Ime was an assistant that I knew really well, and Will Hardy, who's joining him, and Jeff Van Gundy, who we all watch on TV, but he also is a coach. Mm-hmm. Underneath this broadcaster, his dad was a coach, and Jeff's a coach, and just interacting with those people was such a godsend to me, because it gave me a lot of insight into just kind of working our way through this situation. And Pop, I will treasure that forever. I will treasure those plane rides up and back, and both of us being able to celebrate on the way home.
Mm-hmm.
And it was funny, because we were flying home. He called me over and he said, "Hey," he said, "we got a plane going back to San Antonio. You want to go with us?" He goes, "Where is your home now?" And I said, "Well, I live in Ohio." I said, I don't live in San Antonio anymore, Pop.
Yeah.
But just having those exchanges, just totally priceless.
Yeah, absolutely. So you kind of alluded to it when you talked about just the interaction you had with Sue Bird after you guys won the gold medal. And one of the more iconic moments is standing up on the podium with your team, and the players get their gold medals, and you hear the national anthem play after winning. Kind of take me back to after you guys won the gold medal, just some of the emotions that you felt. The job is done. You guys have done what you set out to do. Just what is that feeling like?
Well, to be honest with you, and I'll give you a genuine, there was a little relief. Mm-hmm. I mean, you felt a pressure, and like I said, it's nothing like the head coach. I know what it is to feel the pressure of the head coach, but even I as an assistant, you felt it. So there was a sense of relief.
Mm-hmm.
You had done what you set out to do. But it was a powerful and emotional moment when they raised the flag and they're playing our national anthem. And you flash back to people that were meaningful to all of us, but you also think about family. And you think about some people that maybe aren't here that would have really, really appreciated that. I thought of my father.
Mm-hmm.
I thought of my mother. But I think all of us do that. When I looked around the room, we were going back. We were going back to the United States of America, and we were going back to people that were important in our life. And we were feeling a sense of unity and purpose, because it's a very rare thing to represent your country. I can only, military. I have a lot of military in my family. I'm not trying to compare it because that's a whole greater kind of service. But I understand, how you feel that you want to represent your country well. I do get that, and I had that feeling at that moment.
Yeah. So just to kind of wrap things up here, you touched on how you talked to President Hassler about some of the lessons you learned at Muskingum. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with just the overall Muskingum community about just your entire experience with the Olympics? Anything else that you want to touch on or share?
Well, I think you have to point in my journey back to Muskingum and an awful lot of what I learned. You got to talk about Dr. Jim Burson. I mean, there were moments, I am sure, that what went on from 1973 to 1977 were very much a part of what I was bringing to this point. And I use him. There's lots of people that I think influenced me at Muskingum. That's why I felt emotionally to reach out to Dr. Hessler and tell her. But I think he's an example, and I can pull to him. Whether it's me talking about an approach that's probably the terminology that was formulated by him. You carry, especially as a teacher, you carry some of the lessons that's been taught to you into those moments. And that's at the core of what a coach is. A coach is a teacher at that point. And I just, it's just interesting because I didn't text very many people from Japan, but I did text her because I was moved to realize, the foundation that I got at Muskingum is very much of this process for this 66-year-old guy, coach. It's still a part of him. That's very useful at that point. And I was drawn on everything I could to be a good assistant, to be a good mentor with the players around it, to have the presence at whatever moment I was going to be asked to do. I wanted to be at my best. And I thought of Muskingum. So it's funny where your minds go at those times, but that was one place that was undeniable on my mind.
Right. Yeah. So that's all I've got. I just wanted to thank you for taking the time. I know quick turnaround from getting home, and I'm sure you've got a lot on your plate, but I really appreciate it. And I'm sure the whole Muskingum community just appreciates you sitting down and just sharing with us your experiences. It's been great to learn about. So I want to thank you again.